I think the most important thing, given the timing of this game, is it's our first opportunity now with Jurgen as our head coach, and there's some new faces here. There's going to be some, I guess, new objectives, new expectations, new things to learn, and this is our first crack at it. So this is a little bit of a process now leading into qualifying, but every step is going to be important, and it starts tomorrow.
Great.
Landon, I know he's kind of sitting right next to you right now, but you've worked with Jurgen before at Bayern. What have you learned about working with him?
I've used this phrase a lot over the last few weeks. Jurgen has very positive energy, and it's infectious. And I think the guys have already taken to that well. As far as tactical things and a style and an approach to the way we play, that's going to take a while. That doesn't happen overnight, especially in 2 or 3 training sessions. So it's going to be a little different tomorrow, the way the game is for us and the way the game looks and feels. But I think everyone's really excited. I think the energy is good in camp, and I think we're all really excited for what's coming the next few years. I've been through a lot of training sessions, and there's not too many that differ from another. But no, I mean we've all done this a long time, and we're all professionals, and we're preparing for the game. We're hearing some different voices than we have in 5 years, but we understand what the goal is tomorrow, and we understand what it means when we play Mexico.
Brian.
Jurgen, what are your initial reactions to the first 3 training camps with this game?
It's very positive. I gathered a group of guys that all seem to be very, very motivated. They're very curious to see, how things will go under my guidance. From our coaching perspective, it's really about gathering as much information as possible in these first couple of weeks to get to know them. I mean, obviously, Landon I know a little bit longer, but a lot of the other players, I need some time to know them a bit better and understand them. Understand their mental aspect, their own situations in their club teams, their own challenges that they have, wherever they play. So these couple of days are really, really important for us coaches to gather as much information as possible. And it's fun. I really enjoy that work. They're very open-minded. They're very good listeners. We try to encourage them to to be outgoing, to express themselves. Obviously, jumping in a game like this right away is not an easy task, but it's also an exciting one. It's exciting playing Mexico just a couple of weeks later after the Gold Cup final, but especially it's exciting because you have an opponent that improved tremendously over the last couple of years. They brought through a lot of high talented young players through their ranks, and now they belong to the top 10 in the world. So the U.S. right now doesn't belong in that region. And we know that, so that's a big goal. We want to show them that, we can compete with them. We're going to give them a fight. And we want to see from the players, how they express themselves, how their energy is, how they take their risks, how they take their responsibilities on the field. And so I think it's great that you get that opportunity right away against an opponent that is a different caliber.
That's the whole right side of the room. Go ahead in the back, too.
My initial reaction was one of little sadness and compassion for Bob, because we've been with him for 5 years, and when you're with a coach that long, whether you always agree or disagree, you become close to a coach, and so that was a little difficult. And then moving forward, I've been excited about this. A fresh outlook is always good. Something different is always good when you get into a rhythm of doing the same thing over and over. It's sometimes a little bit difficult, but I think we're all excited about it, and I'm certainly happy about the choice they made, and excited to move forward.
Brian Strauss.
Landon, when you're a national team player and you're only together for a few days and you're sort of perhaps the finished product as a professional, how much can a national team coach make current crop of players better? And how much of it really is sort of a long-term thing about development and culture of the game in this country?
That's a good question. Well, the idea, in my opinion, when you come into these games, is to get players prepared physically, mentally, emotionally, and to have them excited and ready to play when the game comes. And that sounds easy in theory, but it's quite difficult at times given where everyone's coming from. The part about gelling together as a team is difficult. Fortunately, there's a core of us who have been together for a long time now, so we kind of understand that part. And then looking at the big picture, I think a lot of us that are involved in U.S. soccer share a similar idea of what needs to happen for this thing to keep moving forward and long term. And that starts with our youth in every way, and developing our coaches, developing our players, developing the way we do things. We're at a kind of a tipping point now where it's time to really go for it. We're not worried about whether Major League Soccer is going to make it or not anymore. We're not worried about, do we have kids that are talented enough? We've seen now that we have players that are talented enough to play on the world stage, and we got to start cultivating that more so that we're getting 50, 60, 70, 100 super talented young kids coming through to choose from like other top countries do.
Harith.
My question is, Jurgen, there are some names on this roster that we haven't seen in the past with the props players. Talk about some of the guys and how tough were the choices to be made. A lot of these guys I can get versus Freddie and easily stuff like that.
Well, what you're trying to do, obviously, you try to get your hands around. You talk to a lot of coaches out there, and you try to kind of gather a group together that one, has a core, like Landon said, of the guys that are here since years, and build really the backbone of this team. And then you try to see some new faces in order just to experiment and get a first idea, where these kids are, and some of them, coming from Mexico. It's very interesting to me to see an Edgar Castillo, and Michael Orozco. They're doing well in their clubs in Mexico in a very, very good league there. I'm curious to see the Marcus Beasley just being in the group. He just arrived today, unfortunately, because he had some passport issues. How he fits in this whole group. So you kind of go by position, and you say, what alternatives do we have, position by position? I chose a very young goalkeeper because I think it's important to see, where's the next generation of goalkeepers coming through after Tim Howard. And obviously, Tim is number one here and is undoubtedly, there for hopefully many years still to go. But we need to find the next generation of goalkeepers, So now Bill come in and gets a first taste of this group. Is very excited about it, and so we want to see some fresh blood, how they fit into that group. We want to see some established ones. We want to see maybe some like DeMarcus Beasley that haven't been here for a while, and then go step by step. We have then a couple of more friendlies coming up, and see another kind of few new ones possibly or probably. So what we're trying to do basically is we gather as much as we can. We want to see them in practice. We want to see them in their way they present themselves. We want to see them as characters, and then we're going to get a better picture one step at a time.
Jonathan.
You have a number of former U.S. national team players on your staff for this game: Thomas Tuchel, Todd Ramos, Claudio Reyna. What do you want to get from them to
Well, the intention is very simple. You know, you have actually a tremendous amount of resources here in this country. You know, you have a generation now of players, former players, you know, that know a lot. They played World Cups, you know, they played big competitions, they played overseas, they played in Mexico, in US, everywhere. So I want to kind of see, you know, how they would fit into that bigger picture US soccer right now, because it's about time that that generation breaks into the coaching level and kind of put their marks into the next generation of players. I mean, a guy like Tab Ramos, you know, a tremendous experience, you know. Martin Vasquez played for Mexico and the United States, was with me in Munich, learned a lot there. Thomas Dooley, captain of the US team, you know, knows overseas what's going on in Europe, he knows what's going on here in the US. So all those guys, you know, they have a lot to offer, and I'm going to evaluate that, and I'm going to see over time now, you know, who fits perfectly in that group of people. We have a lot of questions to answer over the next couple of months, you know, youth development, Landon mentioned it, you know, Olympic team, under 20 team, under 18, under 17. This is all very, very important positions to fill in, because that's the next group of hopefully the next Landon Donovan to find in this country. So I want this generation of players, I want them to be involved in that process, because what they bring to the table is an enormous amount of experience and a very sharp eye for the game. They can read it. There are other things, you know, that you obviously, you know, when you become a coach, you need to learn. It's a more tactical approach. It's the organizational skills you have, maybe the language skills you need, the communication skills. That's all learnable. But one thing you can't learn anymore is exactly how to play the game and how to deal with the high pressure when you approach a World Cup and stuff like that. So I need to make sure that the right people are in place, and together with Sunil and with Dan Flynn and Claudio Reyna, to make sure that, you know, we're going to go down the right route. But so far, after a couple of days, I have to tell you, I'm highly impressed with these guys.
I was wondering what your impressions were. I mean, obviously, even before you took the job of Mexico, and where their team stands now, what their potential is on the world stage.
Well, I followed them over the last couple of years very closely, obviously, and was in South Africa myself, saw them play live games, was at the stadium, was at the Argentina game, you know, and when over the last years you could see a path of players breaking through in Mexico that have absolute exceptional talent. And this is wonderful to see. You have Mexican players now that kind of made their mark in Europe. This is great to see. It shows there's also over the last maybe 10 years a certain switch of mentality that the players actually are able to compete in the biggest leagues in Europe. You know, it has a lot to do with the mental toughness that you need to bring in once, you know, you change to another continent and suddenly you are, you know, not in your home environment anymore. You're out of your comfort zone. You may be in Germany, you may be in England, you may be in Italy or Spain. It's a whole different ballgame over there, and they made it, and they put their stamp on that team, and I saw them already going further in the World Cup already. I think they lost that game against Argentina only on an emotional level, not on a playing level, and now they proved it in the Gold Cup that they are there, you know, and that they have tremendous qualities. But even better for us, because we can look at them and tell a story. Say, you know what, they developed already a couple of things, maybe a bit ahead of us, but we are hopefully not far behind, and every opportunity we get to play them, we're going to challenge them.
Luke.
Jurgen, you said you're impressed by this group. What can you learn about 20-some players in 2 days, and what has impressed you about them?
Well, impressed, especially because their attitude, their open-mindedness, you know, to listen and get challenged, their willingness to learn is extraordinary. I really have to say that. But it lies a little bit, I think, in American culture. And you can see a lot, you know, if you run a training session and you raise the pace, if you go higher speed, then obviously you see certain deficiency maybe on a technical base with some players. You see when they run out of breath, you see what rhythm they played in the last couple of weeks, months, you know, they see, you know, what background they are coming in from MLS or coming in the preseason in Europe or already in the season in Mexico. So all those things you can read, but It is a fascinating process that we started now, and I'm really happy to be part of that process. And I think every individual one, I can help them hopefully to develop to the next level.
Jurgen, you talked about at length already the importance for the Latin style to help out the United States. Yesterday in practice, yesterday morning, when you had the 999, we noticed that all the Latin players were on one team. Was that a coincidence, or was there something special you were trying to accomplish, and what did you see as far as their play together?
No, that was, I mean, it's certainly not a coincidence, because when I put, teams together in a training session, there's always a reason for that. So, but for us, it's really important to see, how they link up with each other, how they fit into their positions, and you follow then the path over the last couple of months of an Edgar Castillo at Club America. Sometimes he plays left back, then he plays left midfielder. Where does he fit best? Jose Torres for Pachuca plays really well since a couple of weeks already in the season. And what we want to see, and that's where we kind of put them into certain positions and situations, is, okay, how can they match up with our team, and how can they express themselves, because we'd love step by step to develop a style of play that the players have the capability to express their own characteristics, their strengths. So we try to build things on their strengths, but also giving them the responsibilities that, once, let's say, you go as a Torres, you go 1-against-1, we want them, when he loses the ball, to realize the first thing he has to do is chase back and go back in position. So there's a certain element of discipline in there, of organizational skills that they have to kind of develop step by step, but also to give them the freedom to do certain things where they're good at. I would never stop Landon to go at people, and with his pace that he has, to go in the box and try to score. So we try to get their strong elements into the right perspective, but also step by step tell them, but we also have responsibilities. If we lose the ball, make sure that we are well covered. You're welcome.
Jurgen, would you consider Germany's #1 rival, and how does that rivalry compare to the U.S.-Mexico rivalry?
Well, maybe because of the history Germany has, they have a couple of rivals overseas, but certainly Germany-England or Germany-Holland is very, very delicate to deal with. I think it's fascinating to have that rivalry between Mexico and the U.S. because of the history of both countries, because of, the melting pot United States with so many Latin people living here. It is fascinating for me. It's, for me, also a kind of a learning process. It's very interesting for me to see that, obviously when we dig deeper into that whole topic about youth development, you see many with dual citizenships. I mean, that's unique. You won't see that many German, Dutch kids growing through the ranks. so it's a little bit different. I think it is fascinating to see that here.
Stephen.
Jurgen, are you going to reconsider the captain's role for Carlos, who stays captain? How will you go through that process?
Well, I mean, it's actually not a big topic for me because I have a couple of captains on my team, and I take it the way it goes. I want to meet with the most experienced players every time we get together. And there's Carlos, there's Landon, there's a Tim Howard, and Steven Gerondolo. I mean, there are 4, 5, 6 leaders in that group, and then it depends obviously on the individual games that you face. Is everybody here? It's not such a big topic for me, the captaincy.
Are you changing much at all in your style or your approach now that you're coaching teams?
You mean the style or the approach I had overseas? Well, I hope that the kind of style I really enjoy and kind of I stand for, hopefully fits also a little bit better the U.S. style. Obviously, being a former forward striker, I'm certainly more a type of a person that likes to risk, a type of a person that wants more to develop an attacking style of play that the players enjoy with all the responsibilities, obviously defensively, and a style of play that we all want to develop that excites the people here in the U.S., that the soccer fan here in this country really then enjoys, and they know what to expect once they go and watch a U.S. team play. They know, okay, they will go for it. They will take risks, and they will hopefully now put the opponent under pressure, which is maybe easier against a a smaller nation than if you play Mexico, Brazil, or Spain right now. So I would definitely go for the more attacking style.
Nick?
No, Clarence unfortunately was not able to come. He got injured, and the club ruled him out for 7 days. And then I said, that was yesterday, that we don't call another player in there anymore. So everybody else is healthy, and even DeMarcus Beasley is here since this afternoon, just in time.
It's kind of two-part. It's still Mexico. It's still an important game for us in that way, but big picture, the important thing is starting to learn what the expectations are, how it's going to be going forward with Jurgen. So I think we've used the first few days of training to start to learn those things with the Mexico game kind of in the back of your mind. But when tomorrow gets here, I think the first few days will kind of fall back and we'll just focus on Mexico and deal with that game and then get back to progressing the way we need to.
So the team's on the way. We're going to take one more here, and then if you'll just give us an opportunity to move Jurgen to the back, we'll take questions in Spanish, and those of you that want to get outside to be ready for the mix zone, we'll do that as well. So last one here.
Jurgen, given the U20's failure to make it to their own World Cup, do you feel compelled to lower the age of your team and bring some of those guys in younger to get experience in friendlies or qualifications?
No, I mean, the under 20 is a very, very important part of the whole process over the next couple of years. So no matter if they qualified or not qualified, there's a lot of talent there. The reasons why they didn't qualify, that the U.S. soccer knows that better than I do. Typically, you have a 3-year stretch now go towards the World Cup 2014. There are certainly opportunities for that age group to break into that squad here. A big goal certainly is the Olympics, and that's why I said before we need to address, the coaching situation in that team pretty soon. We need to see, who takes the kids on his hands. The kids need to understand, what is expected. We need to kind of gather lots of information about, the demand that those kids have schedule-wise. I mentioned that in a couple of talks the last couple of days, the question, how can we really get all the young players and talented players on at least an 11-month schedule per year. MLS has come a long way, but has still a long way to go because 7-8 months is not enough for a full professional approach. You need 11 months in your legs to be compatible with the rest of the world. So there's a lot going on in that aspect already, but the under 20 will be closely observed by myself, and then also now obviously by the new coach that will be chosen by all of us.